Hello, everyone. It's Monday, November the 14th. Thank you for being with us, and I'll ask for your prayers again. Since the last time we were here, we've got 21 additional deaths. You know, it's been a little while since we were here. We went through an election and everything last week, and so nevertheless, we now have 7,557 deaths in West Virginia. The 7,537th death is a 91-year-old female from Berkeley County. The 7,538th death is an 85-year-old male from Grant County. The 7,539th death is a 75-year-old male from Boone County. The 7,540th death is a 58-year-old male from Tucker County. The 7,541st death is a 72-year-old female from Doddridge County. The 7,542nd death, a 73-year-old male from Cabell County. The 7,543rd death, an 87-year-old male from Roane County. The 7,544th death, a 76-year-old female from Lincoln County. The 7,545th death, a 78-year-old female from Wyoming County. The 7,546th death, an 87-year-old female from Kanawha County. The 7,547th death, a 92-year-old male from Jefferson County. The 7,548th death, a 91-year-old male from Wayne County. The 7,549th death, a 90-year-old female from Clay County. The 7,550th death, a 62-year-old female from Jefferson County. The 7,551st death is an 80-year-old male from Harrison County. The 7,552nd death is a 75-year-old female from Cabell County. The 7,553rd death, a 71-year-old male from Wood County. The 7,554th death, a 56-year-old female from Berkeley County. The 7,555th death, a 70-year-old female from Kanawha County. The 7,556th death, a 74-year-old female from Kanawha County. The 7,557th death in West Virginia is a 71-year-old female from Kanawha County. I say it over and over and over and over, and I'll keep saying it. But don't let these people feel alone. Their loved ones, their friends need you right now. Please, please don't let them feel alone. Active cases in West Virginia, 665. New positive cases in the last 24 hours, 683. The daily positivity rate is at 4.54. The cumulative rate is at 8.54. Recovered cases, 603,136. There's 138 people that are hospitalized, 24 in the ICU units and 7 on ventilators. And if you'll look, 52 of the counties in the state of West Virginia are green and only 3 yellow, and that's really good. I remind you about your Omicron booster shot. Please, please consider that. And the flu is running rampant across this nation. It hadn't quite reached West Virginia to that level of epidemic, but it's coming. It's all around us right now. And so absolutely, you need to be thinking real hard about your flu shot. You can take both your booster and your flu shot at the same time. Consider please doing that. From a standpoint of the vaccine calculator, it'll give you a reminder as to when your shots are due. And if you'll go to our website, you can get registered on that, and it's pretty easy to do. From the standpoint of information about COVID, and you know, it's all up on our vaccine hotline on our website. There's 39 outbreaks in our long-term care facilities, none in the church community, 50 inmate cases, and 19 staff cases in corrections. I remind you over and over about the Homeowners Assistance Program. It's still available to you. It is absolutely significant dollars, and it will help our state. So absolutely, if we can get you qualified, we're going to work within the guidelines and try to get you qualified. So please consider at least calling us and let's see, what we can do. I remind you about giving blood. I ask you that you'll check with your physicians and everything, and if they say go, that's a go. The last thing is today is an anniversary that is really tough. This one is an anniversary of the Marshall plane crash. 75 people lost their lives. a lot of really, really close friends of mine. I was in the dorm at Marshall at the time. Kathy was in the dorm right beside that. She was in Twin Towers. I was at the time in South Hall, which is now Hollerby or something. I don't know exactly the name of the dorm now, but nevertheless, when word started trickling in, it was really bad. And in the months after that, really tough, really, really tough. And, you know, the next year to see the young Thundering Herd football team beat Xavier was something that I'll never forget, nor Kathy. You know, and so with all that being said, I hope to goodness that you'll take time to remember, you know, the worst sports-related tragedy in the United States, and it happened right in our back door at Marshall University. And gosh, how that university has responded and come back to life in every way. You know, I think through the years of, you know, Coach Pruitt and all the unbelievable successes that he brought to Marshall, and just so many different things that are going on. We've got a new president there, and Brad Smith, and Brad's doing a great job, and so many different things. You know, we've got a football team that's really doing it and knocking it out of the park, and I congratulate Coach Huff, and I think of the basketball team that's started and underway right now under Coach D'Antoni. You know, I think about Mike D'Antoni, Danny's younger brother, you know, and I played against Mike D'Antoni in the Mullins Gymnasium, you know, a long time ago. And so with all that being said, you know, just good folks, and we're blessed to have an incredible university that we have at Marshall University, and how they've come back. So blessed all across our state, many different areas and everything. And so just if you could maybe take time today to just pause in a little bit of remembrance of a really bad time in Marshall's history. Thank you so much. That's all I've got.
All right, thank you, Governor. Secretary Bill Crouch from the DHHR is also joining us today and is available for questions. We'll now go to questions from members of the media. The first today from Charles Young with WV News.
Hi, this is Charles Young with WV News. I realized that General Hoyer and Dr. Marsh aren't here, but I was wondering if we get a little bit of an update on the situation in our hospitals, particularly pediatric units. You know, hearing lots of stories about the kids' units being full and that having an effect on the rest of our healthcare system. Thank you.
Okay, you know, Bill, maybe you can give us an update. I can't give much of an update on that. You know, I know, Charles, you know, all across this nation, you know, we've got stress on hospitals, you know, with kids, you know, and I think it's RSV and everything, you know, that affects their lungs and everything, especially affects, you know, younger kids. And so, and last night, I mean this morning rather, you know, I think the number was we've already had 1,200 people in this country that have died from the flu. So you know, I'm sure our hospitals are really stressed. But Bill, maybe you could add something to that.
Yes, sir, Governor. Thank you. And that's right on target. And West Virginia announced our first flu death of a child earlier this week. So our thoughts and prayers go out to that family. In terms of the bed capacity, we have 2 meetings a week with the Hospital Association and hospitals in the state to track that, much like we track beds during COVID. Pediatric beds are still out there. We have a couple of hospitals that are staying at capacity. I try to speak to communicate with the CEOs of the larger facilities at least weekly. I spoke to or had communicated with them on Friday. This week seems a little better. The report just got this morning. Bed capacity is a little better than it was last week. As the governor said, we haven't really hit the flu season. West Virginia still, as usual, lags a little bit behind in terms of what the rest of the country does. So we're concerned. We're tracking that. We're looking at supply chains, trying to make sure that the hospitals have what they need. I keep asking, what can we do? At this point, we're all just hoping this doesn't get any worse, but we will keep you posted on that. We're tracking that very carefully.
All right, thank you, Charles. Next is Stephen Adams with Ogden Newspapers.
Yeah, Steve Adams with Ogden Newspapers here. This question is either for Governor Justice or Secretary Crouch or both or whatever. But the McChrystal Group's organizational assessment and strategic plan for DHHR says, quote, the status quo is not an option. DHHR requires bold organizational change, unquote. So can you or Crouch explain how adding additional deputy secretaries, adding the integration teams, the leadership development, improving communication, can you explain how that is bold, or did the state get its money's worth, considering that we spent $1 million on this report? And what in this report will make the legislature pause before attempting again to split DHHR into two? Because based on the comments and questions by lawmakers yesterday, they seem unimpressed by this report. Thank you.
Let me lead off, and Stephen, I think that all legislatures, we don't need to get in a constant food fight by the results of the election, influencing that in a really either a positive or a negative way. But the people spoke, didn't they? That's all there is to it, Stephen. The people spoke, and we should always respect the vote of the people. Now, in regard to the McChrystal report, I mean, if we'll just step back and think just about this, what we came up with before was something that was really put together very, very quickly. Divided up, just absolutely divided up. Put it together real quickly. We were shooting from the hip, we really were. So what did we do? We went out and got the very, very best in the entire country. The very best that could possibly be gotten. And with all that, they spent hours and hours and hours digging in every facet that you can imagine, outside groups, internally, whatever it may be. And then they came with a report. Now, whether or not you believe or you think the report's great or don't think the report's great, you've got to at least acknowledge that the effort was absolutely made by a great, very, very creditable group. The effort was made to try to come up with resolutions and solutions that could really help us in DHHR. Now, that's all there is to it. Now, and at the end of the day, what we need to do is do either one of two things. We either need to just rear back and shoot from the hip and hope for the best. DHHR didn't just get this way overnight. DHHR has challenges, there's no question. It is a gigantic organization, and it has challenges. Absolutely, with all in me, it can be better. It can absolutely, every way across the board can be better. I'm here to do one thing, make it better. Make it better. If this report would have come back and said, split it up, well, I would have been all for that in every way. But just to do it for the sake of doing it so we can get up on a soapbox and cheer, I mean, really and truly, and then at the end of the day, we really may end up blowing our own legs off. I'm not there. I'm the guy that believes knowledge really helps you. We went out and we paid for a report from the most credible, and they did it with hours and hours and hours of dedicated work. Now, with that being said, Stephen, I mean, if we want to just stand back and say, well, we don't like the report, or well, that report isn't anything but hogwash and everything, we spent $1 million to do so. Well, let me tell you something. With the magnitude of what we're dealing with here, if we spin around 2 times and everything, we'll spend $10 million and won't even know what's happened to us. And then before you know it, we'll spin around 3 or 4 more times and we'll spend $100 million. Literally, this report calls for bold changes that are needed. And absolutely, before we start just shooting from the hip saying, we don't like this, we don't like that, we ought to at least really analyze all the way through what's been said and look at what to do. Stephen, I say this stuff all the time, and they're just old sayings and everything, but at the end of the day, I give you the example, the analogy of the rattlesnake. You're walking through the woods, and there's the rattlesnake all coiled up, and it's 10 feet away, and it can't hurt you. What do? Stand still a second. Look to the left and look to the right and look behind you and plot a course to go. But absolutely don't just jump, because oftentimes rattlesnakes, travel in twos. And if you just jump, you may absolutely jump in the direction where the second one is. With all in us, we went out and we got a creditable, great report. We didn't tell them what kind of outcome to come up with, nothing. We told them to give us the best recommendations, period. And that's what we did. Now, to say, oh, well, it wasn't worth but 200,000, or it wasn't worth but 600,000 or whatever, it's not what we wanted, whomever it may be. Come on. Let's absolutely analyze and let's work at it. And let's try to make things better. That's what I'm here to do. Now, Secretary Crouch, add to that if you'd like, please.
Thank you, Governor. That's a good explanation of things. First, want to thank the McChrystal Group, a very professional group of people who came up and made a great presentation, took the time to come to Martinsburg and make that presentation to the November interims. Let me say that McChrystal did take a different approach than what I've seen in the past. It's easy to draw organizational charts. It's very easy to move boxes around and to put people in boxes. They looked at at the structure of DHHR, but they also looked at the problems in West Virginia and looked at what West Virginians need with regard to DHHR services out there. And for the first time, we're going to have deputy secretaries who are responsible to fix that. We have to do better. And we have some other ideas that we're going to be pushing forward here in the next couple of weeks on that. So, but for the first time, we'll have one individual who's not worried about the people underneath in terms of what box they're in or what they do, but how do we solve this problem in West Virginia and help the people of West Virginia? The other big issue that I talked to them about was child welfare. I don't think there's any state in the country that has done more with regard to child welfare than West Virginia. We've increased salaries for our CPS workers by 35% over the last 3 years, and yet we still have retention problems because these are difficult jobs. These are individuals who are taking children from their parents. Regardless of how much we pay people, you sometimes can't pay people enough if they're not capable or able to do that. And that is a difficult job. Those folks are heroes, the ones who stick with it and are able to do that. Thank you again. But we're going to, for the first time, have someone who's over child welfare, responsible for child welfare. So the other pieces on there are going to help in terms of communication. The integration pieces that were complained about are to try to improve communication with the legislature so that we have individuals in those specific areas that the legislature can lean on and reach out to and get information from. So rather than one person who legislative liaison trying to sort it through all of the issues, we've got people focused on the issues. So again, I'm very pleased with this. We've already started kind of figuring out how we're going to implement this. We're going to move immediately as the governor has directed me to do, and we're going to get this done. And there are going to be changes, and they're going to be great changes. So the criticism, I really want to listen to what everyone has to say. But everyone needs to really look at what we're going to do here and how we're going to do it, because it's going to make a difference. So thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Stephen. And we apologize for the brief audio issue in the middle of Bill's answer there. But next, we'll go to Brad McElhenney with West Virginia Metro News.
Oh, hi, Governor. Hi, Secretary Crouch. I actually have a follow-up question, so maybe that'll help fill in that audio gap there. Governor, you've asked Secretary Crouch to move forward with implementing the recommendations from that outside review of DHHR immediately. Most of those recommendations have to do with better communication and knocking down bureaucratic silos. Sounds like potentially there is a structure of deputy secretaries whose job includes specifically better communication. So Governor and Secretary Crouch, what does implementation look like? Thank you.
Well, Brad, first and foremost, I want to always, and I want everyone to know, I'm just the same guy that I've always been. I want to represent and tell the truth, period. Tell the truth without any question whatsoever. The most bizarre thing I have ever heard in my life is activity or whatever, but is Senator Tarr saying that Jim Justice, told me point blank that because we didn't pass his 10% tax cut and everything, that he was going to go out and campaign against Amendment 2 and do this and everything. And listen, let me tell you something. In life, we better tell the truth. Absolutely, and that is an absolute lie of lies of lies. I truly wanted us to pass the 10% tax cut without any question, and at the end of the day, the reason I went out and told everybody and worked with everybody is just simply just this. I tried with all in us. Ask Eric Householder. We tried every way in the world to come up with a combination of something on some level of compromise, and everywhere we turned, we got the door slammed in our face. So what did we do? We went out and we told the people. The people voted. The people voted. Jim Justice has one vote. The people voted. For crying out loud, with all in us, we should recognize and appreciate the people's vote. That's all there is to it. We don't have any right in the world, no right, to stand up and say the governor's insignificant and this and that and everything else. For God's sakes a living, the people voted for the governor. The people did. And literally, from the standpoint of the governor's favorability and whatever like that, the people must think that Jim has done a pretty dadgum good job in delivering for them. The people trust me, and I love them for it in every way. But this administration is way beyond just me, way beyond just me. We've tried to do the right thing, and we'll continue to do the right thing. We need to behave as adults and not behave as just irrational children. That's all there is to it. I told you straight up as I could be. I did. I told you if this election comes out that Amendment 2 passes, I'll absolutely be respectful of that in every way. I'll go to work with all in me to try to do any and everything I can to continue to make things better, and that's exactly what I'll do. That is exactly what I'll do. Every day. Every single day. But the thing that we should not get hung up on, and we should never do, is we should never thumb our nose at the vote. We should never thumb our nose at the people. The people are the ones that elected the governor. The people are the ones that shot down all the amendments. The people spoke. The Republicans voted down the amendments. Now, with all that being said, I want to thank Speaker Hanshaw and the House. They have been gentlemen and ladies always. And literally, I would say this to the Senate. It's just your leadership. And at the end of the day, we've got great, great, great senators. But they got to step up. They got to step up and stop the nonsense. This is nonsense that will only be detrimental to all of us. Now, with all that, Brad, absolutely, to go back to your question in regard to DHHR, it's the same kind of deal, Brad. When it really boils right down to it and everything, the implementation of stuff, that is going to happen, absolutely we need to do it and do it right now. But Brad, be fair and be honest. There has been age-old problems in DHHR that have been dealt with governor after governor after governor after governor. We now have a plan. We now have a report from a very reputable group. And what we need to do is implement that and implement it right this second, as fast as we possibly can. Nothing ever moves as fast as we want it to move in government. But literally, you got a plan, and you got the guy right here that believes in me that all I want, and I don't want any food fights and all this bunch of junk. I mean, really, at the end of the day, all I want is absolute more and more goodness for the people of this great state. And that's what I'm going to do. I mean, with all in me, that is exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it from now to the finish line. The people, we're here for the people. The people. The people absolutely make recommendations. The people vote. With all in me, we're here for just that. We're here for the people. And that's what we need to continue to do. We need to do the people's work.
All right, thanks, Brad. Governor, back to you.
Okay, I really don't have anything else. Again, we've lost 21 additional folks. I ask for your prayers for those people. I ask for your prayers for all of us in government to come to a cool-headed sensibility. A sensibility that's an approach that's taken, by our Speaker in our House and I'm sure many in the Senate as well. But absolutely, we do not need to buck the vote of people. I mean, the people shot down all 4 amendments. To be perfectly honest, if you'd had 1 on the ballot, they'd have shot that down. If you'd had 10,000 on the ballot, they'd have shot them all down, because the people were invaded from the standpoint of their rights being taken away, local control being transferred to Charleston. The people didn't want that. The people didn't want that. And we should listen. And if we were real adults in the room, you know what we'd do? We'd say, hold on here. Even if you were for, we would say, wait a minute. The people spoke. I was going in a different direction. I'm speaking of somebody that was for this. I was going in a different direction. But the people spoke. And we're going to listen to the people. We're going to do the people's business, because that's what we're here to do. You look more and more statesmanly, and you'd look more and more like an adult than absolutely just hitting back like a child, making things up and whatever it may be. At the end of the day, all I can do is advise. From Jim Justice's standpoint, Jim Justice is not going to give it one thought in the world. The people spoke, and did they not speak soundly? Did they not speak almost unanimously? Every single county in this state, with the exception of 1, shot down Amendment 2. If we can't learn something from that, and we want to blame it on the fact that, we had too many amendments or this or that, give me a break. At the end of the day, when did I go out start talking to the people? 6 weeks before the election. We had already been talking to the people of West Virginia for 1.5 years. Literally. If you couldn't convince the people in 1.5 years, and I went out on my own, and talked to the people, and what happened? The county commissions lined up 53 out of 55. All the policemen, all the firemen, they all lined up, did they not? And why in the world would we now, when they voted the vote that they voted, look right at them and say, you don't matter? You don't matter, people. That's really what we're saying when we're saying the governor doesn't matter. We're going to do what we want to do here, because we've got the supermajorities and we'll do anything we want at any time we want. That's not how it's supposed to work. That's all there is to it. We're supposed to be here to do the people's work. And that's what I'm going to continue to try to do every single day within me. This childishness needs to stop now. That's all there is to it. And if you think you're hurting me, you're crazy. At the end of the day, what you're really doing is you're hurting yourselves with the people, because the people are looking at you and wondering, what on earth are you doing? the end of the day, you ought to listen. You ought to really listen. You know, we need to be the adults in the room. We need to carry on the work of the people. And that's what I'm going to do. So thank you so much. That's all I've got.